Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Space & Co community. My name is Mark Jones, and I have the pleasure of being your host at this series of virtual events brought to you by Space & Co. We have a fantastic conversation today about positive action, and I'm really looking forward to some of the insights that my guests here today have to share with you. I'm joined today by Shay Hooper. She is the National Director at Space & Co. Shay, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Mark. Really pleased to be here.
Excellent. And also a very special guest, Isobel Stewart. She's an accredited life coach, and she'll be speaking to us today about the topic of positive action and taking positive steps in life. So great to have you with us as well. Yeah, looking forward to your insights. It's going to be fantastic. Now, a couple of things, just some very quick housekeeping notes. We have a Q&A feature here in Zoom, and I encourage you to ask your questions. Write them in the box in the window there, and they'll come through to me by the power of technology. I'll be able to get your questions. I'm looking forward to asking those and getting some feedback. We really do believe in the power of community, so please do get those questions coming through as things go along. Also, just keep an eye at the end of this. We have a survey coming up. We want to get your feedback on this event. Also, just note that this is an interactive forum. As I said, you're going to do some work today. So get a pen and a paper, some paper out. And if you have got your lunch as well, do that too, some water perhaps. But we want you to actually get involved in these tools and techniques that we're going to be sharing with you today. So get your materials ready, get ready for that. Because without being too bold, I actually think that some of the things you're going to learn today will actually change your life. So get ready for that. It's going to be fantastic. This is going to go for about an hour today. So settle in and make sure you're in a good comfy chair and ready to learn from our guests. Now, I'm going to go to Shay, and Shay, I just want to ask, so when we talk about positive action, just as a bit of a scene setter here, what does positive action mean to you?
Thanks, Mark. Positive action, I think more than ever right now, is really important.
Yeah.
So with circumstances at the moment, it is really easy, and if my day to this point is anything to go by, it's really, really easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel frustrated, and I think positive action and hopefully some of the tools that we're going to learn today is going to help us. What's still in my control? How can I reframe? How can I set some goals that still give me that sense of achievement? And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, because quite obviously, without talking too much about the elephant in the room with COVID-19, quite clearly we're surrounded by so much negativity, and so we have to, it's almost like, am I allowed to do this? Can I be positive, and in what way can I do that in a way that's authentic? So I think that's an interesting thing. One more quick thing just about Space & Co. As an organisation, you're so focused on creating these environments, workspaces that are flexible and are open to what we've called activity-based working for a little while now. How do you connect this idea of taking positive action within the context of that community?
Good question. So at Space & Co, we're really proud of the beautiful and the professional spaces that we create, and we love them. But the circumstances we've got at the moment, and with our lives being so restricted, we're not accessing them in the way that we used to. But what that's helped us realise is that it's actually the community that exists within them is where we get the most value. And so we're hoping with platforms such as this and moving to more of a virtual hosting mode within Space & Co, that we can still nurture that community that's there, we can still engage with our members, and we can still create opportunities for them to collaborate and connect together.
That's great. Well, here's to more of that.
Yes, please.
That sounds awesome. Well, let's go now to our guest, Isobel Stewart. Now, I want to give you just a very quick intro to Isobel. And Isobel has been working with people for the past 15 years. She's really passionate about working with people, about helping their mindsets, about positive action, and the things that you can do to overcome your obstacles and to achieve whatever is on your heart and mind is one of her things. Now, I love this quote from her. She says, "Life's too short to be unhappy, unsure or unfulfilled. I also think, by the way, life's too short to have bad coffee. So that's just my take, by the way.
I agree.
Right, okay. But certainly not, life is too short to not achieve those things that are on our hearts and minds, the things that we dream about. So without any further ado, would you please welcome Isobel, who's going to speak to us about positive action.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome to everybody at home. I really just want to say thank you for joining me here today. It is a true testament to yourself to be able to set some time aside in such an ever-changing world that we're faced with at the moment. A lot of the time we find in goal setting that people let go of what is truly positive for them and the belief that something can be achieved even though there's a changing life and world around us at the moment. I can understand. I have my 2-year-old at home at the moment and my partner, and we're just adjusting to the way that life is our new norm, I guess, as everyone else is striving for at home themselves. Now, when it comes to goal setting, the one thing that I have learnt myself is that so many people let go of it, but we let go of it because we want to find a sense of security. And what goals do for so many people and positive action is it takes us out of our comfort zone, doesn't it? It takes us to a place where we feel that we're stretching ourselves and we're trying to strive to achieve the future that we want to achieve, which is why they're so wonderful and why I'm so passionate about them. But so many people resort to their comfort zone, which is not following through with their goals. And I'm here to share with you today how to take control back in a time of such uncertainty, in a time where we feel there's such little control, and show you that the goals that I'm going to showcase today is how we set focus, how we set clarity, and how we set that future steps into achieving the goals that are really possible for us. My own personal experience with this really was when I started my business 2 years ago and had my son. So what goals set in a very uncertain time for me, in a time where I didn't really know what I was doing, it was all brand new. It set steps for me to take in order to achieve growth and strength in that area. What will be personal success for you will be very different to personal success with me. So it's really about just being better than the person you were yesterday. So today's structure and how it'll be set up for the next 45 minutes is I will be taking you through your wheel of life. And as Mark said, get your pen and paper ready. We will be getting straight into the action in a couple of moments to get you setting your goals and assessing where you are in your life right now. What I ask of you is to bring honesty. If you're honest with yourself about where you are, you can get so many more results. If you are not telling the truth about where you are and thinking that it's better to impress the person sitting next to you, or just a societal expectation, it's really important that we take a step back and go, if I'm honest, I'll be able to see the growth in myself tomorrow, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time as well. So we'll start with our wheel of life. We'll then move into setting some SMART goals with you. So if you haven't heard about that, I will be taking you through those. We will then be taking you through the top 10 mistakes people make whenever they set goals. What I find is that most people aren't aware of themselves, about the action that they're taking or the action they're not taking. So I'm going to teach you how to become self-aware, which is what I do with my clients also. Creating focus and understanding yourself better is what will lead you to both professional success as well as personal success. After that, what I'll be taking you through is my coaching tips. Now, this is what I share with my clients in order for them to create a new neuroassociation. And what that means, we've all experienced different experiences of the world. We've all had good, bad, ugly experiences. We're all raised in different families and we're all raised in different cultures as well, which shapes our choices and our belief system. So in order for us to be able to move forward in the world, we're able to do it ourselves. So I'll be giving you coaching questions to ask yourself and things that will be able to retrain your mind to believing in yourself. Now, whenever I coach my clients, what I tend to work with is the gap between where they are right now in their life and where they want to be. Now that gap, interestingly enough, is not just about their lack of self-motivation or the fact they may feel lazy about following through on something. It's so much deeper than that. And what I find is so many people, once we go through the deeper issues that are at hand, they come up with a lack of self-belief. They have a fear of success or a fear of failure. They also have issues that they haven't been able to get a handle on, such as procrastination or high achieving, which is causing them roadblocks and challenges when it comes to following through and achieving their dreams in life. I wonder if you've had that same experience yourself. So I'd like to start off with what goals means to me. And if you see on the slide now, please feel free to take notes, take screenshots, and take as much of this information as you possibly can. So on the next slide, a quote by Jim Rohn. And he's a motivational speaker and author in America, and it says, goals. There is no telling what can happen when you're inspired by them. There is no telling what can happen when you believe in them. And there is no telling what can happen when you act upon them. Now that is so true on a personal level for me, on both a personal and professional level, but also for my clients. When you don't believe in yourself, when you fail to take positive action and we let the noise of the negativity of our situation take hold instead of seeing the positive and the self-belief in ourselves, it's very difficult for us to be inspired and take action. For me, whenever I was not doing well at my goals 6 or 7 years ago, I just didn't believe I was capable of the dreams I wanted to achieve. So today I'm going to start with our Wheel of Life and take you through how it is that you can create that for yourself. So let's get right into it. Everybody get their pen and paper out. And what I'd like to start by showcasing is what the Wheel of Life is. It's a very simple, basic tool. As you can see, it's just a circle cut into 8 different pieces. So the purpose of the Wheel of Life is to give us a bird's eye view of where we are in our life at the moment. What it tells us, we rate from each different area of our life. There are 8 categories, as you'll see on that slide there, that I'll read to you in a moment. But we break our life into 8 different areas. When we can break it into different areas, we break it into bite-sized pieces. And when we rate our life, I guess, is how dissatisfied or satisfied we are, or otherwise you could say what results we're not achieving to what we are achieving. We can start to see where we need to put focus and balance into our life. We can see where we need to shift our time, our energy, and even the money that we may be spending in those certain areas. So what I'll get you to do is draw that circle, and some of you may even finish it by now. So drawing the circle, cut it into 8 individual pieces, and then we're going to do a rating from 0, being the inside of the centre of the pizza, to the outside of the circle, to the outside, which is a 10 out of 10. On the outer rim, we're going to write number 1, family. Number 2, friendship. Number 3, hobbies and interests. Number 4, adventure. Number 5, career. Number 6, hobbies and interests. Number 7, significant other. And then finally, fitness. Now, if you would like to change each of those areas, you're more than welcome to. Now, someone who wouldn't have a significant other or may not have family may choose to change that instead to wellness, education. I know I've changed mine around to have self-care instead. So please choose what's most comfortable for you. And what we'll do is go to the next slide and I'll show you an example of a client of mine. This is what your wheel will look like once we have finished drawing each of our scores in. So as you can see, it's a really quick bird's eye view, and what this client has is very strong focus in the red area on their family. They also are focusing on their friendships as well. The areas where they are quite low in their scores though is on their career, which is an average 5 score, and then you will see a 3 for areas such as adventure and hobbies and interest. Now, the purpose of this is not to have a 10 out of 10 for everything that you're doing. The purpose is to just incrementally increase each of your scores so that you can feel more balance and more control in your life. So for this client, I would recommend just spending a couple of minutes to write 2 goals maximum for each of the areas where they're under 5 for their rating. So what I would love you guys to start doing, if you haven't already started doing now, is just quickly dot on your Wheel of Life what it is that your score is for each different area. The quicker you can do it, the less time we have to think about it, and we're just remembering it is just over the last month. So from the 8th of March, if I have the date correct, until the 8th of April today. Now I'll give you a couple more seconds to finish that. And what we're able to see, and what's so wonderful for even myself, I'm someone who's done this for the last 7 years, every single month. And even still, there are times in my life where I'm focusing, say, on my business, and I forget to have my friendship circle being looked after. I forget to have my self-care looked after. And I remember, and anyone who's a parent probably can relate to this, after I had my son James and I started going back to work, I started to feel quite off. And I was feeling overwhelmed, I guess. I was feeling stressed, and when I did my Wheel of Life, I was able to see my self-care was sitting at a 2. I wasn't exercising, I wasn't seeing my friends as much, and I wasn't having time to myself. These are very important elements of my own self-care. So I immediately set a goal against them, and within a week or so I was feeling much more comfortable, less stressed and less overwhelmed because my cup was full. I was feeling I was able to give back, I was able to balance the new area of my life that was coming into adding to a child to my life, also adding my goals and to my career also. So I think everyone is done. If everyone at home, what I'm going to do now is talk you through your SMART goals. So once we have our Wheel of Life, we're going to do this on repeat every single month. We're going to build consistency so we can build habits and routine into our life, which would be one of the main reasons I'll talk to you later about why people fail at their goals. So with the SMART principle, we have a slide up here which goes through these for anyone who is unfamiliar. So the SMART principle is amazing. It works for goals so well because it takes you from having an unspecific goal to having something that makes sense for you, that's bite-sized, achievable, and will give you the stepping stones to achieving success. So number 1 is S for specific. So how specific are your goals? What is the outcome you're looking to achieve, and how will you know that you've actually achieved that goal? The second is measurable. How do you measure it? How do you know if you've even achieved it? The third is achievable. Is it achievable within the time frame, the tools that you have, or even the knowledge that you have about the certain area or what you're trying to achieve itself? Then we have realistic. Does it make sense? Are you stretching too far? Or is it even relevant to yourself and realistic to who you are as a person and what you're trying to achieve? So it comes down to your values as well. And then finally, timely. Do you have enough time set aside? I know we've all put too many goals in place, I definitely have, where I have stretched myself too thin, I've gone to burnout, or it doesn't make sense for what I'm trying to achieve. A little bit like trying to lose weight before a holiday and cramming it all into the last 3 weeks before you go. So why don't we start by having a look at what your lowest area is, Mark, and we can see what sort of goal we can set against it to help you guys at home.
All right, I get to go first. I love
Please.
This. This is so good. Also challenging, right?
It is challenging,
so
definitely.
I guess I'll pick the one that's most confronting to me right now.
If you can. So we're going to start with the lowest one.
Yeah, okay. So, well, look, I'm giving myself a solid 3 on the friends, right? And it's not that I don't have friends, just for the record. Like, I actually do have some friends. But it's not just even now in the situation we're in, being housebound. Even before then, I think just with family life and being so busy, making time to spend that time with friends has been a challenge for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. So tell me, what does it look like to you if you were to have spend time with friends? What your rating now is a 3. So as I said before to everyone at home, we're not looking to get a 10. We're trying to just increase it so you're feeling more satisfied. So what would it look like to you if it was?
Look, I just like hanging out with them, spending time. Sometimes we might go to the pub, or whether we go walking together, or movies, activity. All the normal stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in pretty much self-isolation at the moment. What is one thing that you could do in order to regain that in your life at the moment?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me would have to be setting up like a Skype or Zoom chat, right? So
Excellent.
FaceTime or something.
Yeah.
But I think for me, being intentional about it.
Yes.
I think it's easy to just kind of default to Netflix. So,
like I said, we all go back to our comfort zone, to our home. Exactly right. So it's not pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah. So I think making that happen would be the key for me.
Amazing. So if I could direct even and give some examples at home that may help as well. So if we're doing FaceTime, we have Zoom. What about having a beer with your mates if you're missing out on a Friday night, so that you catch up with them that way? You're not missing out on what really makes you feel.
Oh, look, I was paying attention to your the SMART goals there.
Yes.
So I guess I'm going to try and get this right.
Please, and I will correct you.
Are we saying like I'm not going to get over ambitious, so I'll say every 2 weeks on a Friday.
Sure.
Find a friend.
Yeah.
Book in a hangout time at 6:30 or 7 on a Friday.
Amazing.
Or maybe
good.
later, depending on what's happening with the family.
Yeah.
So
that's perfect. Who else needs to be involved? Is there a time frame that you would be setting it to?
Who else needs to be involved? I mean, obviously, I've got to make sure it sort of works within the family schedule.
Absolutely.
Step 1, get it right on the home front.
Yeah.
Step 2, I think inviting 1 or more people to join me, and I don't know, maybe put a time frame in on it so it doesn't feel too awkward, an hour and a half, something like that.
It makes sense. And the reason I say that as well is sometimes we have excuses that come up. So if you don't involve the family and let them know what's happening, potentially that can knock out the plans, which means you're not going to follow through. So if you have a time frame that maybe suits your wife or your kids, whatever it may be, every situation will be different, then that's important so you won't be able to cancel. You have everything sorted out.
Right. Well, I guess in the real world too, when you make an appointment to meet someone, you stick to it.
Absolutely. How would that make you feel? How would that increase your scores if you're doing that every 2 weeks?
Oh, look, I'm an extrovert, so I'm going to feel great.
Me too, yes. I hear you.
Look, it's easy to know that it'll be a great outcome. So.
Okay, amazing. So just on that as well, for everyone at home, a great idea, and I know I have done it before, drop the ball in my friendships, as simple as writing 3 text messages to 3 friends, write out which friends they're going to be, and to send them a text message, say, how are you doing? I miss you. Let's have a phone call soon, or let's catch up. So even something as simple as that, starting small is very important so that we don't become too over-eager, don't follow through, and it becomes, I guess, a failure in our goals.
Right.
All right, awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Shay.
Yes, okay.
What area are we looking at for you?
Well, actually, I've taken a bit of lead from yourself when you mentioned self-care, and
Great.
I thought, you know what, I think that would be a good one on my wheel. And I've crossed out adventure. I've put self-care there because I feel like I'm good on adventure. So I put self-care, and probably no surprise, I rated it reasonably low. So I've been thinking a lot about that as I'm hearing you speak, Mark, and thinking what I think I know why it's happening. I think it's because I'm contributing a lot. I give a lot of myself to my team. They're really important to me from a work perspective. And then, of course, family. There's a lot of give there in terms of the children and the household. And that gives a lot of delight to me. But then if I sit back and reflect, what have I done that's just for me? I always sort of put that at the bottom of the to-do list. And I know it would make me feel good if I did something that was no one even needed to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's an area I feel that I could put some focus into.
Okay, so we have a general idea about what it is that could make you feel better. So what specifically could you do?
Well, I was thinking a little bit about that as well. And you sort of go-to might be exercise, but I feel with our exercise one time a day at the moment, we're all pretty...
It's a bit full.
Because give me that exercise.
Yeah, agreed.
Moment. So I was thinking about something even more closer to home and to me. And one thing is, because we're working remotely and in different ways, I'm not putting a lot of effort into my appearance.
Oh, I hear you, yes.
I'm not putting on my corporate wear. I'm not spending time on doing my hair. And I just think that maybe something where I say, once a week, I'm going to do my hair, I'm going to put some makeup on, and no one else needs to notice, but I think I will feel grateful for it.
I love that you said that, absolutely. And even just doing your hair is something that makes you feel good about yourself. So it's really about not being about everyone else, as you said. So specifically, what would you then be doing? If you were talking about you're doing your hair, how do you know if you've achieved that? How much time would you be spending on it? And when would you be doing it?
Well, I think I'm going to target once a week,
yes,
probably on a weekend, so maybe like a Saturday night, even though we're still just having dinner with the family, maybe I put a bit more effort into that. It means I actually straighten my hair, and put a bit of lipstick on and a spray of perfume and maybe some earrings, and I'm ready to go out to the dining room.
But that's fantastic, and I love that you've even brought that up. And even I might make a note here on the language you use, which is maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. If we have non-committal language around it, and why time frames are so important to us, not maybe, on Saturday night you will. Okay. And at what time? So if we can be really certain with ourselves around our goals, this is what's going to help us to follow through. So the difference in saying, I might, I'll try, I should, I could, compared to I am. If you can start adjusting your language and being aware, as the point that we'll get to in the next session. But that's perfect. So what time are you going to be doing this?
Okay.
I am.
So I will do this on Saturday at 5:30 p.m.
Perfect. And how long will it take you? Just so we have a bit of a guide.
I think I can allow 15 minutes.
Wow. Amazing. Do you know what I love about that for Shay as well, is that we start at 15 minutes. If our self-care is sitting at whatever rating it was it?
Like a 3.
Like a 3. Okay, so you're sitting at a 3, and when we start feeling inspired and excited about setting goals, what we tend to do is go, I want to get to 10 in a week. What can I do? I am going to do my hair every single day. Instead of just saying I'm going to spend 15 minutes, which may seem like a short amount of time, but you're going to build on that. We're starting to build a foundational, platform for creating that habit and for also making you feel better just that little bit, which will give you more energy and more, inspiration to keep doing it. So making sure that you are just starting small and then making it bigger from there. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Well, why don't we have a look at, or I'll even share an example as well. There's a slide coming up that will give you examples of what I would call a poor example of a goal, an unclear example of a goal, and then a SMART goal. So if we look at our fitness and we look at someone who maybe is rating at a 4 or a 5 on their wheel of life, an example of a poor goal would be, I'm going to work out 3 times a week for 30 minutes. We may think I'm going to increase my exercise. We think that is a great goal, but it's really quite vague. So if you move into the next one, being unclear, this is where most people get it wrong. This sounds like it's quite specific, but it isn't. So I'm going to spend 30 minutes 3 times a week doing exercise. What we don't have is what days are you going to do that? How long are you doing it for? And what is the long-term big picture goal of why you're doing that? Which is why for the SMART goal here it says, on Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, I'm going to increase my fitness over 12 weeks by spending 30 minutes running from 6:30 till 7 a.m. So we can see how clear that is compared to the first example that we used. So if you're someone as well who may be in business, a poor example would be saying, I'm going to work on my website. A great example would say, I'm going to spend from 7:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. working on building my side hustle by working on my website. Now that's still a little bit unclear. You can be as specific as you like what area, but you can add that as you go. So what I'd love you guys to do, if you haven't done it already, take your lowest area of your wheel of life, and I want you to make one simple goal, not the 10 ideas that you have. The goal isn't about making as many as possible. It's about you having the self-belief, you having the self-confidence in your own results. If you make them too large, you can stop yourself from doing them. So take a moment, write out your goal now. I say 30 seconds, Phil? Yeah. And take your time to do so now. Okay, so we're back now. You all should have had your goals written out at the moment, so making sure they're specific and following the guidelines. Now, this is where most people stop. This is where most people set their goals, pop their books into a drawer and don't think about them again and wonder why they haven't achieved them. I know I used to do that. So I'm going to take you through now the top 10 reasons why people haven't achieved their goals. I've made every single one of these mistakes. What I'd love you guys to do at home is play bingo with me. Which ones have you done as a mistake yourself, and now you're being aware of it? If we can increase self-awareness, as I said before, we can achieve more. If we can be honest with ourselves, we can achieve more. So let's start with the first one up on your slide now. Take a screenshot if you would like. And the first one is, your goals are too big and your expectation is too high. So goals are too big. This can get confused. There is nothing wrong with having big, hairy, audacious goals that are just drive you forward. The problem is they're unattainable or they're unrealistic. So an example for myself, I use a wheel of life, and what I use it for is my 20-year goals, my 10-year goals, my 5-year goals. So I start with the 20-year goal and I break it down. So in 20 years' time, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And it does sound ridiculous until you start breaking it down. So if I break it into what do I need to achieve in 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, etc. So I'll give you a good example. So one of my big goals is to own my home outright. So the way that I need to do that is create a savings plan. Now you're going from someone who wasn't saving as well as they would like. So what can be a bad habit is someone will say, I'm going to put X amount into my savings, and they end up pulling it all out before they need to spend the money. So what I started doing is I said to myself, what can I cut out? And it was a cup of coffee. So it was my second cup of coffee a day, which was saving me $5. I know it doesn't seem like much. $35 a week, how am I going to buy a home from that? What it started doing for me was it changed the way that I viewed money. It changed my mindset to become a savings mindset instead of a spending mindset. So from that one little thing that I was stopping, I would then start merging into other areas of my life. What else could I stop spending money on? What then happened from that mindset was I started thinking, okay, if that's how I save my money, how can I start creating wealth? How can I start creating money in my life? So what can I be doing? So as you can see, that is where the bigger picture comes in. And when we set a goal that makes sense, which might be a large goal, we break it down to small bite-sized pieces. One of my favorite quotes is, how do you eat an elephant? That's one bite at a time. It can be very overwhelming whenever we look at a scenario we don't know how to get a handle on. So this is the way to do so. The second part of that is your expectations are too high. So this reminds me, whenever I was 16, I started playing piano. I went in there with the expectation that I would come out with playing two hands Mozart, and instead my teacher had me doing scales for an hour, as well as my hand technique, and I quit the next day. The reason I quit was because I wanted to have the results without putting the work into it, and my expectation was that's what I would be given in that session. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it'd be very safe to say that many of us have great, grand, high expectations of ourselves, only to see the work that needs to go into it and not wanting to follow through. So making sure your expectations make sense to the time frame, and also that you're doing bite-sized pieces as well. So the second most common mistake that we will see right now is it being too vague. So if this is too vague, what we're going to see is that we're not specific enough, and we saw examples of this before. So my goals list used to always be lose 5 kilos, save X amount of money, learn French, learn salsa, the list went on. But that was all it was. So it was pretty much a wish list. If you don't set a deadline to your goal, it will just be that. It won't become a goal. So the next example that we have for a common mistake is there's no due date, no time frame as well, that it's unrealistic. So like I said to you before, unrealistic timeframes would come across as people losing weight in the wrong period of time, or for businesses as well. I see when clients come in, they're wanting their business to be successful overnight without realising it could take 2 to 5 years for this to become successful and the work that they need to put into it. I know for many of you who are either within a business or owning a business, it can be very important to be able to change what your goals are, your goal is, and just to keep moving with the flow of what's happening in your day-to-day life, which is why the Wheel of Life is so important to repeat on a monthly basis. It's enough time for action to be taken, but not too big that we become uninspired by our goals. The next most important one, I would say, is they don't align with your values. Number 4, it's setting them for other people, so your friends, your family, or societal expectations. A great example of this on a personal level would be someone giving up smoking. So for example, if you're giving up because someone's told you should give up smoking, you don't have a big enough why behind you, or the emotional, connection to that goal for you to be able to push through the hurdles, the times whenever you feel like a cigarette, and to push through. So whenever you come down to doing it for someone else, make sure the goal is about yourself, not about other people, and not about societal expectations as well. So number 5 on your screen right now is they don't align with your values or beliefs. Now, your values and your beliefs are very important. Values come from our experiences. They come from our family. They come from our cultures as well. Some of the most common mistakes that I would see when it comes to goal setting is that people come to me with a very superficial problem they might have. They're not following through on their goals, they're procrastinating, and what we fail to realise is that it's so much deeper than that. When it comes to coaching clients, it's about marrying up not just only the action steps that we're taking, but also the depth of the reasons that we're being held back. When it comes to your choices in life, we're brought up in very different family systems and very different cultures, and this affects that. We also have good, bad and ugly experiences in life, and it shapes how we see the world. It shapes our own beliefs of the world, our beliefs of ourselves, and our own capabilities too. It also affects what our values might be. So your values and your own idea of success and what's important to you will be very different to mine, and that's okay. I think it's very easy for us to judge other people, to judge ourselves, and to not offer kindness to each other, especially to ourselves. So if I can share my proudest moments, in particular when it came to goal setting, was having my son, was starting my business, was finally doing that salsa class that I'd always had on my list. And it also was deeper than that for me too. It was stopping people pleasing. It was stopping the need to be a perfectionist and be a high achiever, which really held me back in so many areas of my life. And it also for me was about owning that home. And now, if I can share my values, they can perfectly aligned with that. My values are security, they're family, they're health and wellness, they are self-discipline and self-love as well. So as you can see, they all connect. So maybe stop for a moment now and have a think, what do you really hold valuable and important to your life? And if your goals are set up against something that doesn't align with that, perhaps that's a reason why you're not following through there. A great example would be someone who is volunteering and wants to become a millionaire. Potentially that is going to misalign with what their values might be, from helping others to receiving money. So sometimes it's just a matter of working through what those underlying emotional roadblocks might be for you to be able to achieve those goals. So number 6, I'm wondering how many people have 5 out of 5, because I have done every single one of these. Number 6, they're not written down, visible or scheduled. Now, one of my favourite examples of this is my partner. Now, we started dating about 6 years ago, and we do our Wheel of Life every single month, and I introduced this to him after I watched this happen. So he was telling me about this incredible book by Sebastian Terry, and it'll pop up in a couple of slides' time, but it's called 100 Things. So 100 Things is about Seb Terry, and his best mate died from suicide when he was 24. Now, that absolutely crushed him, as it would to anyone, but what came out of it was a big reason why. And his big reason why was to create 100 lists of things that would make him happy, a pursuit of happiness. And the pursuit of happiness was so important to him because his mate obviously lost his life because he couldn't find it in life. Now, his list was wild. So it has marry a stranger, deliver a baby, and this is just an Aussie bloke. It also has skydive naked, help a stranger. And each of these were just truly inspiring. When I flicked through this book on my partner's bookshelf, I saw at the very back was 5 pages. It had 20 lines for him to write out his 100 things he wanted to achieve. Now, they had give $1 million to charity, dye my hair blonde, climb Everest Base Camp. It had watch a wildebeest migration and watch a 100 metres final at the Olympics. Incredible. What I was noticing was his closed book was closed, the list was at the back of it, and it was popped on his bookshelf, never to be seen again. And I'd made that mistake so many times before. So when it came to this list, I stopped and asked him, so what is it that made you set these goals? And he said, well, it'd be really cool to achieve them. Without wanting to take away from that, I stopped and said, well, who are they for? You or for other people? And I'll never forget him just looking down at the ground. His face changed and he looked up and he said, wow, this is very much for other people. And the problem isn't about how big his list was. You know, shoot for the moon. It's about the fact that it was popped on a bookshelf, not to be seen again. It was for other people and it misaligned with his values. Now, I thought maybe he was a millionaire 6 weeks after dating. He wasn't. But it was looking at something that was just so big and so out of someone's reach without a plan next to it. So we started implementing date night, and every month we would have, or this is what we'd add to our date night, we would go once a month to a restaurant and we would pull out our wheel of life and we would action it together. And the two of us would achieve so many wonderful things for ourselves over the last 6 years. So I really recommend for you, if it isn't visible, make sure it's visible. Do not put this sheet away, pop it on your fridge. I have drawings, I have quotes, and I'm that person, my daily to-do list up on my mirror in my bedroom. It reminds me, because even after 6 years of doing this, and even as a coach, I succumb to all the natural human feelings, which is, I can't be bothered, I'll do it later, and it reminds me. So please make sure it's visible, and I believe you will have the most success possible. That's probably number 1 on this list. So the next mistake that we make, they're uninspiring. So what's your big why? As I just mentioned there, Sebastian Terry had a huge why. He had something to follow through for as emotional as losing a friend. What's your big why? And that's why I'd recommend set a 20-year wheel of life. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in 20 years and what do you want to have achieved? Now, number 8, you succumb to the need for instant gratification. Succumbing to the need for instant gratification is a huge problem in today's day and age. We see people succeeding, becoming overnight success. We see the show reel, the highlight reel of people's lives. And we don't stop to think about, if I put hard work, time and energy into something, I will get the results. So if you can stop for a moment and put a big picture in place, put that big plan in place, it will be your big reason why as well. For the feelings that come up, the emotions, like I was talking about before, the days where you just can't be bothered, or the days that I'll do it later comes up, I don't feel like it, etc. This big picture and you not succumbing to instant gratification is what's going to carry you through for those moments. What I always say to myself is this decision, I call them micro decisions. Is this micro decision I'm making, so that extra cup of coffee a day, is that going to lead me to my long-term goal of owning a house? If the answer is no, I don't do it. So if you can start setting yourself up with a mindset of that at the very beginning, it means you're able to build habits for yourself and that you're able to follow through with the results that you want to achieve. Now, I think I missed a slide. So that one before is you see them as hard work. Sorry about that, guys. So what's most important about seeing them as hard work? Our mental viewpoint of a goal, how I used to see my goals, was they're hard work and they are removing fun and freedom and enjoyment from my life. I saw that I was missing out on things and I attach pain to them. So if you attach pain to something, do you want to do it? Definitely not. If you can start attaching pleasure to what it's going to give you. So long term, I'm going to own a home if I don't have that extra cup of coffee. That's the pleasure attached to it. So turn it around. What is it giving you? And it also comes to the question that I use all the time, what is it costing you not to do this? What are you not going to have in life because you're not able to follow through on that micro decision and you're succumbing to your feelings? Now the final one, number 10, is underestimating that it is a game of commitment, discipline and mindset. Your goals are 80% psychology, it is 80% your mindset. You can achieve anything that you want to. It's only 20% action, but it's about persisting. It's about being consistent. It is about showing up every single day and knowing what it is you want to achieve and how you're going to get there, and that you're going to have some bad days. You're going to fall off the horse, and that's absolutely fine. It's what you do with that. So it leads me to talk about one of the most important things, which is your 4 stages of learning. Whenever we learn any new skill and we try something that is new, what we see is we start at a stage 1, that is, we don't know what we don't know. So when we're setting our goals and we're writing our little list and we're putting it into our drawer, we don't know that that's going to affect us following through. Once we don't know what we don't know, for step 2, we start to know what we don't know. So we're able to rectify and, I guess, recalibrate on the steps that we have been missing out. This is where most people stop with their goals. When we move to step 3, though, we start to become good at what we're doing. We start to adapt to the skill, but we're very consciously thinking about it. So we're getting much better at it. And this is where we start to see traction. We start to inspire ourselves again. And finally, stage 4 is that we are completely able to do it with our eyes closed, a little bit like driving. So for me, whenever I was able to let go of the all or nothing or the I'll do it later and that whole combination, what I was able to do instead was to attach a learning mindset. So instead of seeing my failures, I saw it as an opportunity to stop, to reassess and say, well, what have I done wrong here? And how do I do it differently to get a better result? And instead of quitting, like my piano lesson, I kept going. And the more I did this, the more I practiced, the shorter the time frame between stopping and starting. And without me even realizing it, I was doing it as a habit. It became something that was naturally going on for me. So I can actually promise you, if you're able to become self-aware and see that you're doing any of these 10 things, or in my case, bingo, all 10 of those things, then you will be able to adjust your lifestyle and keep on moving forward. Once you start with that one small thing that might seem very insignificant to you, it's like a snowball. It builds, it builds, it builds, and all of a sudden you are flying down that hill. The momentum grows so strongly. So please start small. Start with your monthly and acknowledge the things that you may be doing wrong and be kind to yourself. Once you have these acknowledged, I want to take you to the 3rd and final step that comes to goal setting and being proactive and active in a time like this. So the questions that I ask people are, what is your biggest struggle? So when you look at that list, what was the one highlight? What was the thing that stood out for you the most? If you were to say that something was even too big, what I want you to now do is say, what is that attitude costing you? So if you look at our next slide, here are the 2 questions. So these 2 questions here are, who do you need to be and what is it costing you not to do so? So who do you need to be? If you are someone that sees your goals as too big, you maybe need to be someone who scales back. If you are someone who doesn't follow through, you may need to be someone who is disciplined. If you're someone who doesn't ask for help, perhaps you need to start asking for help around you. Maybe your partner to help out whenever you go and do something for yourself. The best way to figure out who you need to be, look at someone in the space that you're trying to achieve. So say, for example, it's a business. Who's doing really well? It's not about feeling bad you're not at their level. It's about being inspired by that person. What is that person doing and who are they? Are they disciplined? Are they motivated? Do they have a positive attitude? Do they have a strong mindset and a strong will? Are they focused? Do they have clarity? So looking at that person, what I would ask you guys to do now is to come up with one word for 2020. What this word is a combination of is everything we have just done. It is a combination of what mindset you need to have, what areas that you are lacking in, focus and balance, and what it is that you need to have in order to follow through when the emotion starts kicking in and you don't feel like doing something. So mine, whenever I very first started this, my mentor passed this on to me, was discipline. I didn't have discipline and I labelled myself as someone who didn't have discipline. The labels we give ourselves from the experience we've had in our life, from the way we've been brought up, sometimes can do a lot more damage than we even understand. So for me saying I wasn't disciplined, it was subconsciously allowing me to have an excuse for why I didn't follow through and why I didn't deserve the results I was getting. And that would really heighten the things like the perfectionism and the people pleasing, which were just a massive snowball of, I guess, a car crash of why things were going so wrong for me 6 or 7 years ago. So that word, mine was self-discipline. What it did for me, and this is a great example, was it made me stop and say, what would discipline do? So you would use this word in that question. What would discipline do? When I didn't feel like going for that run, when I didn't feel like that second cup of coffee, or not having that second cup of coffee, I would ask myself that, and the answer would be discipline would go for that run. And it was a very quick and easy decision. So I would ask you to start with doing that. And remember, there's one more thing to mention here. We go from being what's called a pain zone. And the pain zone is when something has to change. We feel too overweight, our jeans aren't fitting, so we must go on a diet. Then we start getting to a stage where It's not as painful. The jeans are fitting. And what we stop doing is following through on our goals and following through on our habits. So an example of that is when I had a shoulder injury and I had to do my exercises every single day. It got better, and so I wanted to stop doing them. And I lay in bed for 10 p.m. at night, and I turned around to myself and went, I will do that tomorrow. And instead I said, what will discipline do? When I asked myself that question, I got up, I went to the wall and started doing my shoulder exercises. That's how you will succeed in your goals. If you can combine everything that I've just taught you here, I can promise you what your life will look like in 1 year time, even 5, 10 year time will just be incredible and exactly what you're striving for yourself.
All
right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Isobel, I've got to say, just reflecting on that, and we're going to take some questions, by the way, in a minute, but just reflecting on some of those things you're saying, it's like you've packed a lifetime's worth of experience into, a short presentation. So I thank you for that. One of the things that really shines through for me at the moment is this focus that it brings to the things that are most important to you.
Yes.
So the wheel of life, this idea that I can really understand and drill into those things that are most important. Now, I imagine many of us who are watching and enjoying this content, it's just so incredible to be thinking, what are the areas that I'm going to focus on next? And I think for many of us, we're also thinking, well, hang on, I'm stuck at home. I've got this work-life balance issue right in my face. I can't escape it. So, Isobel, just very briefly,
yes,
how should we see this activity through the lens of this new reality we're living in?
That's a really great question as well. I think whenever you're looking at this right now, it's very important to see that there are things we can control. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It's about creating a mindset for ourselves to go, well, most of the things I can't control. What can I control? Focus on those. Focus on those and know that we will come out of this the other side at some point in time, and we're setting ourselves up to still create the habits that we need in order to create momentum and movement within our life right now. Of course, there will be things that you can't control. Leave those to the side. Focus on the things that you can, and it just creates a positive mindset for yourself.
Excellent. Well, let's go to some questions. But before we do, Lucas has a shout out for Shay. He's really wanted to affirm you, Shay, in your SMART goals. He says, hashtag look good, feel good. Okay, go, Shay.
Thank you, Lucas.
You're the best. Yeah. Thank you. Now, Charlotte asks, I have a tendency to set too many goals for myself and then become overwhelmed. How many goals would you recommend I set in 1 month?
Oh, that's a great point. So, Charlotte, I would say for you, just do 2 per area that you're wanting to raise. You'll know for yourself whether or not that is too much for you. So I think it's pulling out that being self-aware. When you start feeling overwhelmed, go back, stop, reassess and recalibrate your goals to make sure and eliminate some. This isn't a race against anyone else. It is just about you moving on from who you were yesterday and achieving those goals.
Fantastic. Next question is from Sarah. She says, what are some habits or routines you've put in place to ensure you don't forget about your goals?
Oh, so as this will be, I don't worry about being embarrassed by this.
Conversation? No, something else.
Yeah, no, it's a fridge conversation. I have vision boards. So the next step from this would be setting a vision board, and I'm a very visual learner. I think 60% of people are as well. So it's taking all of those little goals, say for a year, popping it onto a PowerPoint, beautiful images from Pinterest, and I pop that up on my, it's on the back of my screensaver on my laptop, and it's also on my fridge. And then I also have on my mirrors at home, I have quotes. I have things that really inspire me and that are very important to myself and my own drive about reminding myself that I really can do these things.
Great. Now we have another question here from somebody. If I fall short of one of my goals, what do I do next?
Okay. No, be kind to yourself. I think it's really important to be able to, like I just said, it is just stop and reassess. You fall short, assess why. It's so common for us to go, I failed, I'm not going to do any more. We don't like the feeling of failing. People don't like feeling like they're doing a bad job. No one is intending to do a bad job in life, are we? We're all doing the best we can. So what I would say, stop, reassess. Was it too big? Was it too vague? Were you specific enough? Were there life changes? Life is going to, throw spanners in the works like we're all experiencing right now. So yeah, be aware of that.
Now, another one. How do you determine which goal to prioritise when you are time poor?
So I learnt this whenever I had my son. I thought he was going to sleep like a little baby when he was first born, and he didn't. So I only had 45 minutes to do things. So it was a matter of breaking things down into even smaller pieces. So I was studying at the time, and I wanted to do, say, 2 hours at a time, and I had to agree with myself 15 minutes was better than nothing. So if you're time poor, what's better than nothing? Start with that, and you can build as you start to build a habit.
Shay, I actually want to just open that up to you because you're an HR expert. You've worked with teams for many, many years. This is actually something we deal with in the workplace as well, isn't it? In terms of setting priorities. Is there a challenge here that we maybe don't carry over those workplace lessons into the home life?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's lessons that we take back and forth and not as explicitly as we should, absolutely. I think that right now, many of us are in a conundrum about priorities.
Yeah.
So it's because if I reflect on my own experience professionally, what's happened right now is we've set objectives for the year, and overnight we have to reassess those and we have to determine. And I do really think that mindset about what can we still achieve, and I think what you've helped us view today is breaking it down into really digestible little chunks, and I think that is just so important. Because if you've got that alongside children you could be homeschooling, and your roles in life have just become so significant all at the same time. So yeah, I really think that mantra around what can I control, be kind to yourself, and emotional health through all of it has got to be sustained.
Yeah,
great.
Agree with that.
Next question, what would you consider a healthy wheel of life to be if it doesn't all need to be 10 out of 10?
No, it doesn't need to be 10 out of 10. Like I was saying, it's appropriate to you as an individual. For me, there will be times where life changes. This has changed life, so I'm not able to achieve the things I'm able to do. So for you at home, if it's a 10 out of 10, I feel like I wonder what your life is like. I wonder what is going on if everything is a 10 out of 10. Expect that it'll go in ebbs and flows. That is how life goes. That's how your wheel would go. So there is no healthy. It's what is making you feel, like you just spoke about, was feel well, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically as well.
Okay, that's great. I just keep thinking of actually someone, my wife and I have 4 children, and we asked a family friend, how do you deal with the 4th child? Because it's getting a bit overwhelming now. And she just said, just lower your expectations. Drop your standards. So maybe,
standards,
maybe don't shoot for the 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Go for a solid 8. I don't know. That's just my view.
And what is a 10 to you may be an 8 to me, may be a 5 to you. It'll be all different. Don't compare yourself to the person sitting next to you. It is just about what is making you feel like you're progressing as well.
And this is actually a really important lesson that you've highlighted for us today too, is the expectations that we set for ourselves. Yeah. And then we find ourselves falling short of our own expectations that we've brought on ourselves.
We've brought on ourselves.
Right? So it's
Don't
your
even
own
get
fault,
me started.
basically.
That'll be another hour.
That's good. Look, I'm just going to take a couple more questions here because they're flooding through before.
Great.
I'm just keenly aware that we're close to time. Now, if you have low scores in multiple areas, is it a good idea to set goals in multiple areas or concentrate just on one to start?
Look, it's very difficult to answer that question without knowing exactly what your life is looking like and what you're experiencing yourself. I would start with one. The main goal of goals at the beginning is to set your self-confidence skyrocketing. The moment that you can achieve the easiest thing, you start feeling great about yourself, you have a positive mindset, you believe you can do more, and it's a danger of adding too much more, but it's just start. If you take anything from today's session, start small and slowly progress upwards. So just pick one that's probably the most important to you, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. Now, another one here from an adventurer who's watching. Can you please give me an example of a goal for adventure? Is this scale Kilimanjaro? Is it?
Look, it depends. Your adventure may be very different to my adventure. What do I see as adventure? Travel to me is adventure. I highly value variety. So for me, that's adventure. For my partner, it is lots of different mountains. It's all what his adventure is about. So it comes down to you. Firstly, get a meaning what adventure means to you, what life looks like without it, and what life feels like with it, and you'll be able to identify it for yourself. But identifying adventure is very different from one person to the other. Yeah. Mine is travelling the world.
There you go. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Well, I've been inspired. Actually, I met somebody who was very, very shy.
Yeah.
So she organised, I think what she calls 100 dates. And so she just phoned up random strangers and asked if she could have lunch with them.
I mean, that's adventurous. That's amazing.
Because it's going, and to me, adventure is an opportunity to go beyond yourself.
Yeah.
What are the areas in which I feel uncomfortable?
Yes.
I feel like it's a big challenge.
Yes.
I think that's such an important thing. Well, look, we might just start to wrap up there, but could I just get maybe some closing reflections from you, Shay? We're both, you and I think, we're taking away a lot of notes from today, aren't we?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Isobel. It's been
pleasure.
really, really insightful and such perfect timing. I think from myself both personally and professionally. And definitely, you know, when I look at Space & Co and what we're trying to create within our venues, I think that, you know, we definitely can bring the goal setting in and look at how we can break this down into digestible and tangible elements in order to still create a great platform and a great community for our members.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and what are your own reflections on today?
I mean, I jam-pack a lot into 45 minutes, so there's a lot for you guys to take away from it. But I would just say that in a time like right now, it's very easy for us to focus on what we cannot control and cannot do. So please be kind to yourself in this time. Know that we will get through it. And the more that you can do just every single day, one day at a time, the better that you'll feel about it at the end of it.
Great. Well, look, would you please thank both Isobel and Shay for their comments today. I really enjoyed this whole conversation, and thank you very much also for your questions. A couple of things in closing. One person asked, can I get a copy of the slides? There will be a video available after this for those who have signed up to watch this, so that'll be available. The slides will be within that, and we'll send out a message if we can make those.
They're available, actually.
We can make them available.
Absolutely.
There we go. So that's fantastic. I also wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek at our next virtual event, the next community, the next Space & Co community event. And we're going to be hearing from and meeting Susie Green. She's from the Positivity Institute, and she's going to be running a session on positive psychology and what positive psychology can do in your organisation. And I've got to say, I know a little bit about positive psychology, and I've got to say it is a very encouraging, it's very much in the spirit of today's positive action, actually. So what you can do to position yourself for success. So I encourage you to sign up for that one when the notification comes out. Now, a couple of other things. If you'd like more information about Space & Co, please do go over to the website. There's lots of information on the Space & Co website about this and other initiatives by Space & Co. So I encourage you to do that. Also, if you'd like to know more about Isobel Stewart, you can get her on the web at isabelstewartcoaching.com. I got that right, didn't I?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, isabelstewartcoaching.com. So look her up, and if you'd like to follow through on some of these ideas with her, maybe she can hold you accountable, with her discipline strength might be a way to do that. And finally, expect a survey pop-up to come up on your screen just as we close out here. We do want to continue to invest in and build on these events, so your feedback really means a lot to us. So please do that. Once again, thank you to our guests for today, for a successful, wonderful event, and thank you to you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next time.